Welcome to the world of Mary Potter. You're about to go on a spiritual journey, watching a story unfold about the incredible vision, dedication and work of one woman and her closest companions. After watching this film, you'll have the opportunity to explore in detail each part of Mary's life through the Heritage Centre website. Just after midnight on the 22nd of November 1847, Mary Potter was born. Mary's challenges started as soon as she entered the world, with heart and lung defects that would carry on throughout her life. Living in an area where the poor struggled to survive, this little girl would still grow up to transform the lives of those around her with kindness and care. Mary was born into a good home, the youngest of 5, with 4 brothers, but her father abandoned the family while she was still a baby. As a teenager, Mary broke her engagement to Godfrey King. She joined the Sisters of Mercy in Brighton to devote her life to God. Mary Potter's poor health prevented her from continuing, and after 18 months, she returned home to her mother. On November the 6th, 1874, the sun rose on a cold winter morning that would change everything. As Mary prayed alone in her room, this devout young woman suddenly knew what she must do with her life. She felt she was being called by God to establish a new order of Catholic sisters, whose spirituality would lead them to dedicate themselves to pray for and care for the suffering, sick, and dying. Mary wrote about this to her mentor, Monsignor Virtue, but he and her family and everyone else all told her to forget these ideas. Despite her worsening health, Mary didn't give up. Against advice, Mary took a train journey to talk to Bishop Bagshaw of Nottingham, who she heard might help achieve her vision. He welcomed her and eventually agreed to fund a year's rent on a derelict property where she could help the suffering, the sick, and the dying. This old stocking factory in Hyson Green was falling down, strewn with bricks and other rubbish. However, Mary saw what it could become and set about cleaning and making the house more comfortable. On Palm Sunday, she was joined by her first 2 companions, Mrs. Bryan and Miss Agnes Bray. Together they chose a room for the chapel, and with the help of neighbours and friends, the building opened on Easter Monday, 1877. Initially, Mary and her 2 companions lay down to sleep on sacks of straw on chapel benches. The bishop blessed the building and declared the mission opened. Shortly afterwards, 2 more companions joined them, Mary Eleanor Smith and Edith Coleridge, and on the 2nd of July, the bishop formally blessed the sisters, and the little company of Mary was born. The new order had hardly any money. Mary and her companions kept a pot of soup on the boil all day to feed the hungry at the door, but often had to beg themselves to fill the pot. The bishop requested they begin a small elementary school in the Maternal Heart of Mary convent for the poor and destitute children, and the sisters visited the poor, the suffering, the sick, and the dying in their own homes. But Mary's health worsened. Breast cancer led to 2 operations made more difficult because of continuing heart problems. In 1882, Mary travelled to Rome with 2 sisters, asking for the Pope's blessing and seeking his approval, a huge step for the congregation. The journey took 10 long days, with Mary suffering 2 heart attacks on the way. Pope Leo XIII gave them a warm welcome when they arrived and urged the sisters to remain in Rome to help the poor, the suffering, the sick, and the dying there too. Mary's ill health continued to decline. In Rome, she began to respond to requests, sending little company of Mary's sisters throughout the world. Eventually, they opened houses in England, Italy, Australia, Ireland, United States of America, Malta, and South Africa, with approval given by Mary for another foundation in New Zealand in 1913. As she could not travel, she wrote to the sisters, giving spiritual guidance and encouragement. After guiding the little company for 36 years, Mary died on the 9th of April 1913 and was buried in Rome, aged 66. In 1988, Mary Potter was declared venerable by Pope John Paul II, the first step towards canonization. Later, in December 1997, her remains were translated to St. Barnabas Cathedral, Nottingham. When she started, she had exactly 4 companions. Yet her congregation has spread to 5 continents: Europe, America, Australia, Africa, and Asia. Today, you can share Mary's spirit and join the sisters in praying for the suffering, the sick, and the dying of our world in union with Mary on Calvary. You can also visit the Heritage Centre in Nottingham. Here, Venerable Mary Potter's writings are shared with us all, and you can discover artifacts, memorabilia, graphics, and stories from the sisters. Visit the Heritage Centre in Nottingham to join us in embracing the mission of Mary Potter. Discover more, deepen your spirituality, and experience our quiet spaces for prayer and reflection.